Hey, party people. Last week I did my couture reviews for the Spring 24 shows. And in the beginning of that video, I touched a little bit on the fashion calendar and why the couture shows are scheduled when they are. And that got a lot of interest. And so let's talk about fashion calendars, and let's also talk about other calendars like trade show calendars, and also where your design process timeline and your production timeline fits in with all these fashion calendars. All right, so let's start by kind of mapping out when the major shows are. I'm going to start with the main bank, the four shows that everybody, or when I say everybody, I just mean everyone in fashion, anyone who is interested in fashion, okay? So everybody follows the main bank of shows: New York, London, Milan, and Paris, in that order. And they usually take about 4 weeks. Not that every city takes about 7 days. You know, New York and Paris, I think, have the most designers showing, and so they take up more days. And London is typically the smallest, like 4 to 5 days, just strictly number of designers. The fall winter shows happen in February and March. So they'll start about mid to early February, and then the last days will be like early March. And then we'll start all over again early to mid-September going into October. And in February, we're going to be seeing fall winter 24. And these shows are going to be for spring summer 25. The couture shows happen after the main banks, and so we just saw couture for spring 24 in late January. And then the fall shows for couture will be late June. And then again, come all the way to the bottom, and then we're going to be seeing the spring 25 couture shows January of next year. Bridal and high fashion, they have become a bigger and bigger pairing over the years. And so, I mean, bridal's always been a thing, but as the wedding industry has grown, as weddings have become bigger and more extravagant, you know, and high fashion, Vera Wang is probably partially responsible for this. We're paying more attention to bridal shows now. And so we have bridal here in New York in the first week of April, and then mid to early October. And these are both in New York. Men's fashion has been gaining interest in wider circles. More and more men's fashion has become more interesting. And still, you know, men's fashion often gets shown during the main banks because that's when, you know, all the editors are going, and you're getting the most attention from the public as well, because really people pay attention to Fashion Week, Fashion Month, whatever. But men's fashion do have their own shows, and they are early January and early June, early to mid-June, right? And these are your spring 25 shows, and these are your fall winter 24 shows. They show even earlier than women's wear for that season, okay? Let's talk about some in-between seasons. We have resort and we have pre-fall. Pre-fall is just a fancy word for whatever comes after fall, which is late summer, okay? But since we already have like spring, summer, you can't call it summer. And so now we have to call it pre-fall, this weird made-up name that the fashion industry decided that we were all just going to go along with. Now, and resort was originally invented when rich people wanted to go to someplace tropical during the dead of winter on holiday, and they wanted clothes for that. And so it became resort. And now that travel is more accessible to all economic price points, that resort has become a much more popular category to design for, as more and more people are looking for those vacation clothes in the dead of winter. And sometimes it's called cruise, because a lot of people go on cruises, I guess. And holiday, it's like this in between, like it's like a little mini season that is sold right before the Christmas holiday season, and it's just holiday stuff. So holiday doesn't really get shows or, you know, a lot of fanfare, but resort really does. Okay, so resort and pre-fall, they are in between seasons and they're much less organized, not like, fashion week where the schedules come out and everyone is going to them and everyone's paying attention at the same time and all these things. Like pre-fall just kind of happens like throughout, like there's like men's in November and women's in December, and just like it's like I'm gonna say this is all pre-fall season. Kind of goes in there. Resort is the same way. It comes after couture. Men's goes before couture. Resort comes after couture. Nobody wants to fight the couture shows for attention. So other than that, it's not super organized. Now, for a few different reasons, more and more fashion people are paying attention to fashion weeks outside of the main four cities. And some of that is because, we want to branch out, see what else is out there, see what other things that we can see. Some of that is let's decentralize fashion a bit and also look to the East. And then some of it is just, people just want new stuff all the time. It's like a disease, okay? But without thinking about it too negatively, somewhere in here, okay, in between couture and the main bank, we have Copenhagen. That is becoming more and more of a place people are looking at for interesting fashion. Berlin is around here somewhere. Seoul is in here. And like in here, after the main bank, we have Tokyo and Shanghai. And again, these are not set in stone. These are kind of typically what have happened in the past, like these kind of clusters happening around the main fashion week calendar. So you're going to have to check back and see when is happening for each city that you are interested in. But it happens around here. It happens around here. It's a little bit different because like Tokyo is going to show in August because they are actually doing or like early September, very end of August, because they actually do 6 months and 6 months. For some weird reason, the main shows are 5 and 7 months apart, which throws a kink in a lot of different chains. I'm going to try this again because every time I've tried to do this, I go off on this rant that I did not mean to go on. But basically, let's talk about trade shows. Okay, because runway shows used to be trade shows. They started off as a showcasing of their new season to their wholesale buyers and to their custom clients, couture clients. And now they're more like marketing and PR vehicles. And trade shows are still good for marketing, but really about wholesale buyers coming to place orders, to check on the new season, things like that, and, connect with other people in the industry. And runway shows are typically for designer and luxury price points and some like high contemporary. And then trade shows are typically, it used to be for juniors, moderate, better, contemporary, all of these sort of price points that were from cheap to under designer. And all these trade shows used to cater to specific price points, different market segments. And a lot of that has gone away with the rise of fast fashion, just kind of swallowing up a lot of these cheaper categories. And, we don't have a thriving middle class anymore. And so a lot of these middle categories also went away because nobody can afford those. Everyone just buys fast fashion brands and then buys a designer handbag. Okay, I didn't mean to go on these rants, but sometimes I cannot help myself. Let's talk about trade shows and how they fit into this calendar. Okay. Anyway, so if you are not a designer price point or luxury price point, you're contemporary or less expensive than that, and you want to showcase somewhere, you want to put your brand in front of a wholesale buyer, you want to go to a trade show. One of the biggest ones will be Magic. So let's talk about Magic. And Magic happens in both Vegas and more recently New York. And Magic shows in Vegas in February, like mid-February. Magic hardly ever shows alone. I can't remember the last time Magic showcased alone. Magic by itself is huge, but there's also like, does Pool still exist? There's Project, there's West Coast Exclusive. Like they all used to run at the same time so they could get as many buyers in those 3-4 days in Vegas all at once, right? And then after Magic is Coterie, and Coterie's in New York. And then Magic now does a few days in Vegas, and then it will join Coterie in New York. And they won't have all the same brands. Like some brands are big enough that they can afford to show at both places. Many brands cannot afford that. And so they'll show at one or the other, whatever is more accessible to them. And then there's Curve. Coterie is for contemporary brands, which is the price point just under designer. Magic is anything basically under designer price point outside of the big fast fashion machines. The big fast fashion machines like Zara, H&M, they are considered direct to consumer because they only sell in their own retail outlets, their own websites, things like that. They do not sell to Nordstrom to sell again, like that's wholesale, right? And then Coterie is contemporary, and then Curve is intimates, lingerie, and swimwear. So we got Vegas and New York. And then they do Magic in Nashville early April. And in May, there is this show called Couture. And it has nothing to do with Haute Couture in Paris. It is a jewelry and watches trade show. Sorry, that's late May. And then Magic will happen again for the following season in August. And then again, Coterie will be here in September. Now, Petit Uomo is a little bit different. It's like very high fashion, but it's not really runway shows. It's more like showcases and like an expo. It's got events, models giving presentations, but it's not like full bank of runway shows. And they show a lot of very expensive brands and more like men's version of contemporary brands. And Petit happens like mid-January in Florence and in mid-June. So it'll coincide with the men's shows happening in Paris. It'll finish before the couture shows in Paris. And same here. So they're all friends in here and they're all friends in here. Okay. Let's talk about sourcing a little bit. Sourcing is basically what it sounds like. It's when you are looking for the materials with which to make your collections. So when you're looking for textile people, when you're looking for people who sell buttons, that sort of thing, that's called sourcing. And big companies have whole sourcing departments. Medium-sized companies, they'll have like a whole sourcing person. Sourcing is a pain in every newbie designer's behind. It's hard. And what I often recommend to my clients is to attend a textile trade show, a sourcing trade show. There are trade shows for the textiles and materials industry. Like these trade shows are for clothing and accessories to show off to wholesale buyers like department stores and boutiques. And then sourcing trade shows are where you order yardage, buttons, zippers, labels, that sort of thing. And I'm not going to sit here and list all the textile trade shows in the world. There's a lot. There are some that are like 3 dozen vendors in a big room. Okay, real small. But I am going to talk about a few of the really big ones. Number one being Premier Vision. Premier Vision, which it is my dream one day to attend. I just know about it. I've seen pictures and all that stuff. And if you're a working designer, you probably know what Premier Vision is. It is a trade show, and it has, you can source people who sell materials, do your production. Like they have a whole section just on leather, like all kinds of stuff. It's really big, and it happens twice a year. So once in the first week of July and once in the first week of February. Premier Vision also shows in New York. It'll be like the third week, late July. If you are in denim, okay, there's a denim Premier Vision in Milan that happens a couple times a year, but there's Kingpins, which, I mean, it's in Amsterdam and in New York, and Kingpins is considered like the people to follow for all things denim. So we'll do Kingpins in New York in mid to late January, and then again in mid-July, and then we'll have in Amsterdam late April and early October. Magic also has a section of its show for sourcing, and it happens at the same time as the rest of the Magic shows. Okay, but Google textile shows near you. LA has shows all year round. New York has shows all year round. You don't necessarily have to schedule anything around a textile show unless you want to go to one of the biggies, because there's like always a textile show going around somewhere in the world if it's like related to fashion at all. Now let's talk about the design process calendar a little bit. I'm just going to pick one season, and I'm going to choose, this is the end of fall, winter 2024. Okay, so you did all your design and development up here. This is your deadline, okay? If you're showing, this is your deadline. This is your deadline if you're not showing, but you are designing at these price points because you want your samples to be available for buyers, your lookbooks, your line sheets, everything. Same goes here. Wherever you fit in, you want to be ready for your trade shows. You want to be ready to exhibit, okay? And when you're done with that, okay, two things are going to happen. You're going to start design on one collection and you're going to start production on another collection. So at this point, you're going to be working on fall, winter 24 and spring 25 at the same time, okay? This is where you're designing. This is your deadline, okay? What's going on over here, wherever you fit in the market, that's your deadline to have all of your samples done. Please keep in mind that product development takes way more time than designing. When I was in school, the thing that everyone said was, when you become a full-fledged designer in the industry, you will design approximately 2 weeks out of the calendar year. So enjoy fashion school and all the designing you can do while you're there, while you can. And yeah, it's true. You don't get to spend a lot of time making cool mood boards and sketching like all the time. You will be constantly designing, and but it's a lot of doing flats. It's a lot of development. It's not like the ideation of it, of new ideas, isn't something you spend a lot of time on like you do at school, okay? Like at school, you're always like, come in with new sketches, come in with new sketches, come in with new sketches. But when you're in the industry, it's like, oh, we have this sketch. We're going to refine it. We're going to work it. We're going to pick the right fabric. We're going to put it in fitting. We're going to do another fitting and change the design while we're in fitting, like that sort of thing. So in the industry, it's a lot of design refinement. Whereas in school, it's like, do you have a lot of fresh ideas? Can you make a collection? Can you make more ideas? Like, which I'm not going to say I agree with 100%, but anyway, let's start here. Okay, I am in a ranty mood. I just keep going on. I want to talk about production first because your delivery schedule is just as important, or not more, I think more important than your actual show schedule. This is January, and this is where you start delivering your women's wear for spring 24. Now, just because you deliver it in January doesn't mean it's going to hit the store in January. You know, they might keep your goods for when they decide it's going to be the right time to put it out. But you will be delivering in January, and You should also deliver in February. Like if you have a collection, you should be splitting the deliveries, splitting the production load to multiple factories, multiple timelines, and so that you are always sending fresh stuff to the stores. You just don't have stale t-shirts sitting in the sales rack at the store for months on end. You should have new stuff, ideally every month. But you start delivering spring 24 up here, and then you'll do another in here. You're going to deliver fall winter here in July and in August. You're going to deliver pre-fall 24 in May, okay? Because it's that late summer, early autumn stuff. So it'll hit the store in May so that people can buy them throughout May and wear them throughout the summer, okay? Because by the time we get to pre-fall, whatever we bought in spring seems real old, okay? Is that an insane calendar? Yes. Okay, I am delivering a lot of opinions, but there's, these are just the facts of what's happening. I can't really change that. And then resort will be down here. So you're constantly producing, okay? Hopefully you have a great production manager who is running all the different productions on all these different cut tickets and stuff. If you want a video more on like managing production, drop a comment below. But you should be having all these deliveries. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 6 deliveries. If you are doing something more like direct to consumer, you could do mini collections that are posted every month. You don't have to be like a fast fashion machine in order to always have new stuff in your store. Okay, if you want to stay relevant in your customer social media feed and always have new things, it's just like, no, you're direct to consumer. You could do whatever you want. Doesn't mean you have to show a new collection every 2 weeks. You can have like a dress of the week and just have like a dress a week and have it be a special thing. And I mean, if you want to talk more about that, let me know in the comments. But this is just a framework for you to understand what hits stores when. The bigger the company you work at, the less you have your hands in production. If you are an entrepreneur doing your own line, yeah, you're going to be running your own production and you have to run a tight ship. So know your schedules, know your deliveries, and know that stores will not work with you again if you don't hit your delivery dates. Okay, your line sheet should have your delivery date right on the cover. And if you don't hit that, you better make some phone calls. You better be prepared to do some groveling if you want that sort of order from you again. We have all this space in here to design, and you're like, wow, that's so much time. But it's not, okay? Because you're doing deliveries, you're doing production for all these collections. You're also dealing with the sales end of other collections. So you're selling. So we just showed fall 24, and so now you're selling it, okay? So you're selling this, okay, let's do another color. So we're selling this collection. You're working with showrooms, you're working with your sales reps, you're working with wholesale buyers, you're going to trade shows, whatever you need to be doing, you're selling it, and then you have to figure out what gets made, what doesn't get made. Just because something gets ordered doesn't mean it gets made, okay? Because if you only get an order for 6 of a particular style, like maybe you just don't run production for that style. And so you have to call the person who ordered 6 pieces of that one style and tell them it's no longer available. You have to create production patterns. So you're selling and then you're running production, and yeah, you have this much time. So what is that? March to July, you have 4 months to do your first delivery. I keep telling you that in the design process timeline, fabrics are chosen and ordered well in advance so that, especially anything custom, can be made to order, can be done and delivered to the sample making office by the time patterns are done and available for fittings and iterations and all that stuff. You don't actually have until September to do your samples, because you should also be preparing your sales materials well in advance, okay? Or for Magic or for Coterie. Line sheets, lookbooks, which means you should have shot pictures of all of your samples in advance so that you are ready to go, ready to upload to your website, ready to send out to buyers, that sort of thing, okay? So there's a lot of things to do in here. I do have videos on the sample making process, so go check that out. I'll drop a link in the description box below. Okay, that was so much. There was so much. So I'm going to end it there. I hope this gave you a good picture of the fashion calendar and timelines and all of this stuff. Drop me your questions below. Drop me your future video requests below, and I will see you in the next video.